Hi, so I'm here today to give a quick review of the DJI Mini 2, which is a drone that everyone thought was going to be called the Mavic Mini 2, but the name Mavic has disappeared. It's not on the box. It's just called a DJI Mini now, and that's better for it, if you ask me. Too many things were starting to get called Mavic. Anyway, I don't imagine that's the bit you're interested in. Alright, so I'm just going to have a little look at what we need to do to open up the new DJI Mini 2, the updated Mavic Mini, if you like. I've got the optional and less fiddly than I first thought propeller guard. I'm just going to, that just pops out. It's like a popper, like you might get on some clothing. That goes bit of protection. I'm just going to put this in my pocket. See the camera guard again. I'm just going to unclip that. That is nice, easy job. I've complained in the past about some of the DJI's camera guards being a little fiddly, but that one's no work, and the gimbal seems nice and safe. The propellers are individual screw-ons. There's a screwdriver in the bag, so that's poor old DJI losing a patent battle. These are not clever sensor eyes. These are just vents at the front. There's a LED light. That's no more sophisticated than that. On the bottom of the aircraft, you can see we've got optical flow sensors. They are providing about 10 meters sight downwards, so the aircraft can land. So it knows with a very good degree of accuracy how far it is from the ground beneath it, but it can't really see in any other directions, unlike some other drones. I'm going to leave these stickers on that remind me which order to unfold the arms, because I have a terrible habit of forgetting that. You'd think I'd have learned that by now, given how many DJI aircraft I have. I've plugged in a micro SD card. I've charged my battery. The battery is in there. It's a different colour from before. And I'm going to plop it down on the ground. We won't power it up just yet because I need to get my controller ready. So I should say there's very little by way of legs. So I've taken the precaution of bringing just a little sheet of plastic to take off from, so it's not going to get caught in any grass or anything. Here is the lovely new controller. This is a marked improvement.
It seems to be based on the one we saw with the Mavic Air 2, which, as you may recall, impressed me a great deal at the time.
In a way, I'm more impressed, given it's arrived with cheaper, or I say cheaper, it is slightly more expensive than the Mavic Mini, but remember, inside here is OcuSync 2.
So that's up to 10 kilometers in FAA territory, or 6 kilometers of range in the UK. Also, there's the little touches, like the high quality metal rather than cheap plastic used for the thumbsticks.
In fact, difficult to get these wrong as you screw them in, because as you screw them in there's a rubber ring around the outside, but the thing is clearly made of aluminium or some similar metal. So as you screw it, it screws nicely and then won't go too far, it won't turn too far, you can't damage it. That's a really nice touch, because on the Mavic Mini the control sticks were sort of cheap plastic. They were sort of deliberately cheaper.
Alright, I sense I've been talking about the thing long enough. Let's take off and see what we can actually get out of it. One thing to note straight away is that the hover is pretty good, given the slight side wind. It's doing a better job than my focusing. Perhaps I'll start out by saying what an excellent job the machine makes of being a pilot on its own when it's asked to do a quick shot like this. This is the Helix. The aircraft goes up and orbits and gets further back to the distance you choose. This is 1080p though. And while we're playing with 1080p, here's 2 times and then 4 times zoom, the last of which of course is lossy. One of the undoubted massive improvements with the Mini 2 over the old Mavic Mini is the arrival of DJI's panorama modes, here including the sphere panorama. Now, yes, it takes a few seconds, but the drone seems perfectly capable of hovering in place while it gets on with it, so all you need to do is keep an eye on it, make sure nothing flies into it. Slightly tricky conditions because the sun's low in the sky, as it is this time of year, but quite bright, and it's a little bit misty. It will give us a result, and we can see that you can actually do interesting things with 360 degree sphere mode 360 images in Final Cut Pro. We've told it it's a sphere image, and now we can look around, or we can see it in sphere mode. Alright, exciting new photographic features and RAW mode is all very well, but a lot of people have bought this for the 4K video, so let's take a look. Well, it certainly is rich and detailed here where we've got some good sunshine. You can really see it picking out the texture, although it's not super friendly to situations where there's a lot of dynamic range. Oh, this last shot is 1080p, just so you can tell the difference. The first two were 4K. And you might be thinking you won't be using 1080p at all, but it does tend to default to 1080p for the QuickShots, and 1080p does also offer you 60 frames per second. Whichever resolution you choose, you will often find certain amounts of light flare getting into the shot. So, what are my overall impressions of the Mini 2? Well, one thing I've got to say is, depending on your goals, this is an excellent aircraft. So there is a little bit of drift in there because it's such a lightweight aircraft. But it's lightweight because you're not going to have to pay for any annoying registration in most places. The camera, with 4K and RAW 12 megapixels, is more than good enough for most people. Though it has to be said that yes, your eyes didn't just deceive you, it did just do a little wobble there. Maybe the gimbal is going to get a bit better with software improvements. The QuickShots, if you ask me, are fantastic. Really one of the big improvements compared to the Mavic Mini for a photographer's point of view. DJI's panoramas, similarly, it's really nice to have exposure bracketing and RAW mode, because even enthusiast photographers, possibly especially enthusiast photographers, like to play around with RAW mode later. All of that is also quite nicely implemented in the software, so it's not hard work if you don't want it to be hard work. DJI software has a little icon where it automatically attempts to improve the photo for you, or you can download the files yourself from the card. The original Mavic is also available at relatively cheap prices. I'm going to put my affiliate link in the links below, which is a great way to go and look at the current pricing on the DJI site. You will not be offered a different price from anyone else, but a very small percentage will be given to me, which does help me make these videos, so I would genuinely appreciate it if you used my link. But of course, you don't have to. Sorry I've been so quick covering the Mini 2. There's definitely a bit more to go through, and I will be posting another video in the next few weeks. But I wanted to get this out here as quickly as possible, and time's already dragging on. The principal takeaway is, if you can afford this for yourself or for whoever you want to buy it for, it's an excellent choice. It's as good a drone as you could buy with money a few years ago, and the fact that it's small is obviously a good thing because of the regulations in so many places. In FAA territory, for example, you're going to get a powerful aircraft and you're not going to have to worry about the regulations. I believe the same is true in China. The extra power on the motors and the sort of slightly lighter, slightly better battery is obviously all good news. I mean, Force 5 isn't especially windy, so this is still not something for a very windy day, but I think that's obvious from the size and weight, and I think anyone can work that out. But it is nice to have USB-C here, USB-C on the side of the charger. If you buy the Fly More kit, you get a cable and a mains connector. The chances are you've got one of those. Should you buy the Fly More kit? Well, that depends on what you're going to be doing with your aircraft.
Personally, I would say that 31 minutes is a little bit optimistic, so if you're likely to want to use it for more than 20 odd minutes, then yeah, why not? If you can afford it, why not? I mean, this is already an if you can afford it aircraft, because right now, before the end of 2020, there are some great discounts to be had, possibly even from DJI. I urge you to check the links. Think of it as a, bit of generosity on your part. Obviously, I much appreciate it. I'm not a giant evil corporation, and I don't really get a lot of royalty from the books anymore. Anything you can do to help, much appreciated. Thank you kindly. I mean, just to subscribe is nice. Anyway, as I was saying, I think what you've got here with the 4K 12 megapixel sensor is something that drones have had for a while, but for this sort of money is a pretty good thing. The props fold away, all very nice. I think, as I showed, it's a good idea to have something fairly flat to land it on. It drifts a bit more in the air than some drones, but not a lot, and that's something you're going to suffer from with the size. It still hovers pretty much in place because it's still got GPS, and indoors it still has the ground sensors. It can land pretty closely. I found it was quite easy to get it to land on my hand. And I think, as I understand it, landing on my hand is a lot better than grabbing it in the air and turning it, which was a technique I'd learned from someone else. I haven't quite worked out the point of having a multicoloured light at the front. Areas which could be better, I personally had a bit of trouble with the high-speed downloading. So it took me a while to work out exactly how to get this to activate the Wi-Fi hotspot thing. It's one of those devices which can create a Wi-Fi hotspot even though it has no internet, and you can use that to download from the app. And then when I did, I found I got a sort of interference message. Now, I don't have any more interference than normal people have in their houses. Yes, there's Wi-Fi in my house, but I couldn't really understand, whether I turned on or off the remote, what the issue was. So I was only getting about 300k a second rather than the promised 20 megabytes a second. Maybe that's something that will resolve itself. So it's a controller left ready. This, now in this case, is an iPhone 12 Max. Ooh. It does fit. So again, as quickly as I can, in summary, do have a look at the pricing on the old Mavic Mini and see if it's something that would appeal to you, that discount that you can get at the moment. But if you're a photographer and you want RAW files and the panorama mode, the 4K is obviously an improvement to have as well. In general, it's all pretty good. You're still going to see the same things you see from a small sensor. So you're still going to see a certain amount of noise. You're still going to see a relatively low dynamic range. But budget-wise, this is a great thing. If you're buying this for someone to help them sort of get into drones and they're already into photography in the broadest sense of the term, then this is obviously the choice, because scent balance, that kind of thing, it just has more features for the money than anything else. If you're buying something for just some fun pictures of your family on a trip and stuff, then there is a good chance of saving some money by buying last year's model, because it is only last year's model in the Mavic Mini. So what I would do honestly now, and I'm not saying it just because it's the link and my affiliate thing, is take a look at the pricing. Bear in mind that the thing that you want most, if you want this aircraft at all, is the Fly More kit. Look at the pricing on DJI's site. Remember, if you're buying from DJI, that you can get their pretty good quality insurance products, sort of equivalent of Apple Care, and think about that depending on how you fly, I guess I should say. And I will post some more videos soon, certainly sooner than I did last time. So please subscribe and check them out. Thanks very much for watching. There's a subscription button floating around somewhere, and I get a little notification on my phone every time I get a subscriber. Those things make me happy and cheerful, so much appreciated if you do.